Everything's bigger in Texas, so they say, and the state of Texas has given the wrestling world some great things, like WrestleMania 17. However, it's also given us some bad things, like WrestleMania 32. It's also given us a load of wrestlers. So many wrestlers, in fact, that there are plenty of places in Texas that I would never have heard of if there wasn't a WWE superstar that came from there. This video is scheduled to upload on Texas Independence Day, and so to celebrate, we're going to spotlight a bunch of WWE wrestlers who, as they made their way down to the ring, were announced as being from the state of Texas. This probably won't be an exhaustive list, because otherwise we'd be here all day, but I'll do my best to mention as many people as I can. The biggest city in Texas is Houston, and it gave WWE one of its biggest ever legends, The Undertaker. In his days as the Dead Man, Taker was billed as being from Death Valley, which seems fairly fitting, until you realize that Death Valley is actually in California. Yes, I know that Death Valley is a giant desert, but I still don't think there's ever been a less California looking wrestler in WWE history. During his run as the American Badass, Taker was indeed announced by Howard Finkel as being from Houston, Texas, which suited the more human presentation of the character. Another WWE Hall of Famer representing H-Town is Booker T, but like Taker, he also had a bit of a checkered past with his geography. He spent a good chunk of his career as part of a tag team in WCW with his brother Stevie Ray called Harlem Heat. After the team dissolved, Booker fully embraced his Houston identity, except for his run as King Booker, where he inexplicably became quasi-English. Booker now has his own wrestling school, and arguably its most successful graduate to date is Roxanne Perez, who wrestles out of Laredo, Texas. She has lived up to her nickname of the Prodigy in her short career thus far, winning the Ring of Honor Women's Championship in her previous life as Roxy, before repeating the trick in NXT in 2022. She is one of WWE's brightest prospects at the moment, and could be a huge part of the women's division for years to come. Another Texan NXT Women's Champion is Raquel Rodriguez from Rio Grande Valley. She has been in the WWE system for a long time, appearing in the Mae Young Classic as far back as 2017. She has won Tag Gold in WWE and in NXT, and was the winner of the first ever Dusty Rhodes Women's Tag Team Classic alongside Dakota Kai. We complete this hat-trick of former female NXT titleists with Ember Moon. The woman now known as Athena in Ring of Honor had a solid run with the Black and Gold, but was unfortunately never really given an opportunity to showcase her full talent on the main roster. She's from another of Texas's biggest cities, Dallas, the host city of WrestleMania 32 and WrestleMania 38. Quick side note, the first time I noticed Ember was from Dallas was when she was being introduced at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, and the crowd lit up with furious boos. This confused me a lot, but apparently it's because the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles hate each other, and as an Irishman I had no idea about any of that. If anyone's got more context on this, let me know in the comments. But Moon isn't the only women's champion from Dallas to grace WWE. Step forward Wendy Richter, the biggest female star of the 1980s, and a central figure of the rock and wrestling connection leading into the first WrestleMania. Her connection with Cyndi Lauper is one of the cornerstones of that event, as she beat Leilani Kai to win the women's championship in the co-main event. Now with all this talk of the Big D, it's only a matter of time before I mention the legendary Von Erichs. As has been recently made famous in the movie The Iron Claw, starring Zac Efron, the family was the centerpiece of the world-class championship wrestling promotion, which was based in Dallas. The Von Erich boys, including David, Kevin, and Kerry, were wildly popular. Interestingly though, when Kerry was in WWE under the ring name the Texas Tornado, he was billed as being from Denton, Texas, which in fairness is only 50 minutes up the road from Dallas, but it's still interesting to think about. Another wrestler who made an iconic name for himself, both in WWE and out, is the late great Terry Funk. He and his brother Dory were a prolific tag team in the Territory days, and they remained the only pair of brothers to both win the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Terry then carved out his own legacy as one of the industry's great hardcore wrestlers, with classic matches opposite Mick Foley, culminating with an insane match at One Night Stand 2006. And he did all this representing the town of Amarillo, way up north in Texas. Full disclosure, in the process of writing this list, as soon as I came across the name Amarillo, I had to take a break just to listen to the Tony Christie song, Is This the Way to Amarillo? And I'm not even sorry about it, because that song is awesome. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Okay, I'll stop. Just like the Funks and Von Erichs, the Guerrero family is a wrestling dynasty. The most recent generation of the family has wrestled out of El Paso by the Rio Grande, the most westerly part of Texas. Eddie Guerrero is of course a legend in WWE, with his in-ring ability and sensational charisma making him a firm fan favourite. His nephew Chavo wasn't as popular, but he still had a good career. Furthermore, he has built a legacy as the man to go to when Hollywood wants to portray pro wrestling. He was a stunt coordinator for the Netflix series Glow, and served as a consultant on the aforementioned Iron Claw movie. Now we get to the places in Texas that I mentioned earlier, the ones I never would have heard of if it wasn't for wrestling. We start off with Silsbee, Texas, the home of the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. He had a long and storied career with WWE, with many ups and downs, and in his retirement has been a coach and talent scout for both WWE and AEW. His greatest find is probably Braun Strowman, who he plucked out of strongman competitions to join the Performance Center. Sweetwater, Texas has given WWE not one, but two notable figures. Barry Windham didn't have a long career in WWE, but he did manage to win the tag titles as part of the US Express. He found better success in WCW, being part of the Four Horsemen and having multiple 5-star matches with Ric Flair. Then you have John Bradshaw Layfield, one of the most popular tag team wrestlers of the Attitude Era as part of the APA with Farouk. He then became one of the most unlikely WWE champions ever in 2004, although in his JBL days he was announced as being from New York City, playing off his success on Wall Street. Then you have Keith Lee from Wichita Falls, near the border with Oklahoma. Like Ember Moon, Lee had great success in NXT, but suffered from mismanagement under Vince McMahon when he got to Raw that was not befitting of his talents. He's now in AEW, where he had a great tag team championship reign with Swerve Strickland as part of Swerve in Our Glory. You can't talk about Texan wrestlers without talking about the Texas Rattlesnake himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Arguably the biggest star in WWE history, Austin led the company during its most profitable period, and being a no-nonsense son of Texas was central to his character. He was billed as hailing from Victoria, Texas, just 30 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. You'd think that a guy with Austin right there in his name would come from there, but turns out no. But Austin, Texas does have a legendary wrestler that called the city home, none other than the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. One of the best talkers in the history of the business, he had an unmistakable voice and an uncanny ability to take the fans on a journey with him. He won the World Heavyweight Championship on 3 occasions, and his legacy is still felt in wrestling today. He not only created the War Games match, one of the best stipulations in wrestling, but his time as head of NXT helped develop so many of the most popular wrestlers in WWE today. Roman Reigns, Becky Lynch, Bayley, just to name a few. Dusty sired 2 famous wrestling sons. Dustin, the future Goldust, was also announced as being from Austin. And Cody, the most popular man in the business right now. He doesn't qualify for this list as he's billed from Atlanta, Georgia, but I couldn't not mention him. We finish off this video with another legend. From San Antonio, Texas, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. This man tops a lot of people's list for the best in-ring performance that WWE ever had. Listing his best matches and moments is pointless on my part, as it would take me far too long and has been well documented by people with a lot more credibility than me. So I'll just say, he was really, really good. The best wrestler to ever come out of Texas? Maybe. I'll leave that up to you, because there's a lot to choose from. Let me know in the comments who you think is the best wrestler to come from Texas, and if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share it around, and subscribe to the channel.